Hello there, and welcome to the Cozy Curiosity channel. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe you've had a long day, or perhaps you're simply someone who finds comfort in understanding the quiet workings of the human mind. Either way, this evening is for you. Tonight, we're embarking on a gentle exploration through 100 fascinating facts about psychology. We'll wander through the hidden corridors of memory, perception, emotion, and thought. Some of what you'll hear may surprise you. Others may feel familiar, like meeting an old friend you didn't know you had. But each discovery will offer a window into the beautiful, mysterious landscape that exists within every human mind. There's nothing you need to do right now except rest. Let your breathing slow, your body settle, and your thoughts drift like clouds across a peaceful sky. If these calm explorations help you unwind, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. But for now, just let yourself be comfortable. Close your eyes if you'd like, or let them grow heavy as we begin this quiet journey into the world of psychology. Let's begin. Your brain uses 20% of your body's energy while being only 2% of its weight. Despite its relatively small size, your brain is an incredibly energy-hungry organ. Even when you're resting, doing nothing at all, your brain consumes about 1/5 of all the calories and oxygen your body uses. This constant energy demand reflects the enormous complexity of what's happening inside your skull every moment. Billions of neurons firing, memories being consolidated, emotions being processed, and the unconscious work of keeping you breathing, balanced, and aware. Your brain never truly rests, even in the deepest sleep. It's a quiet engine, always running, always working, using more fuel than any other organ to maintain the intricate world of your inner experience. Smiling, even when forced, can improve your mood. The simple act of turning up the corners of your mouth can create a ripple effect through your entire emotional system. This phenomenon, known as the facial feedback hypothesis, suggests that our facial expressions don't just reflect our emotions, they can actually influence them. When you smile, even artificially, the muscles in your face send signals to your brain that can trigger the release of feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Studies have shown that people who hold a pen between their teeth, forcing their face into a smile-like expression, report feeling happier when viewing neutral content. It's not magic, and it won't erase genuine sadness, but it's a reminder that the connection between mind and body flows both ways. Sometimes, acting happy can help you feel a little happier. You can only hold about 7 items in your short-term memory at once. Psychologist George Miller famously identified what he called the magic number 7 plus or minus 2. This refers to the average number of items most people can hold in their working memory at any given time. Whether it's a phone number, a shopping list, or directions, once you get beyond about 7 items, things start to slip away unless you actively rehearse them or find ways to chunk the information into meaningful groups. This limitation is why phone numbers are often broken into smaller segments, making them easier to remember. Your short-term memory is like a small desk. It can only hold so much at once before something has to fall off the edge to make room for something new. The majority of your decisions are made unconsciously. While we like to think of ourselves as rational decision-makers, weighing options carefully before choosing, research suggests that much of our decision-making happens beneath the surface of awareness. Your unconscious mind processes information, recognizes patterns, and guides choices based on past experiences, emotions, and learned associations, all without you consciously realizing it. Brain imaging studies have shown that neural activity associated with a decision can occur several seconds before you become consciously aware of having made that choice. This doesn't mean you lack free will, but it does reveal that consciousness is often the last to know, receiving a report from processes that have already been set in motion in the deeper, quieter parts of your mind. Loneliness can be as harmful to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Human beings are deeply social creatures, and chronic loneliness doesn't just feel bad. It can have serious physical health consequences. Research has found that prolonged isolation and lack of meaningful social connection can increase inflammation, weaken the immune system, raise blood pressure, and increase the risk of heart disease and stroke. The comparison to smoking isn't just metaphorical. The statistical health risks are genuinely comparable. This happens because loneliness triggers stress responses in the body that, when sustained over time, wear down our biological systems. Connection, it turns out, isn't just emotionally nourishing. It's a fundamental component of physical health, as vital as nutrition or exercise. Your memories are reconstructed every time you recall them. Memory isn't like playing back a video recording. Each time you remember something, your brain actively reconstructs that memory from scattered pieces stored across different regions. This reconstruction process means that memories can change slightly each time you recall them, influenced by your current mood, new information, or even suggestions from others. This is why two people can remember the same event quite differently, and why eyewitness testimony can be surprisingly unreliable. Your memories are living things, reshaped by each encounter with them, blending the past with the present in ways you rarely notice. What you remember isn't always what actually happened, but rather what your mind has pieced together from fragments and feelings. Spending money on experiences makes people happier than spending on material goods. Psychologists have found that when people invest in experiences, travel, concerts, meals with friends, they tend to report greater and more lasting happiness than when they buy physical objects. This happens for several reasons. Experiences become part of your identity and story in ways that possessions don't. They're also more resistant to comparison, less likely to depreciate in value in your mind, and they often strengthen social bonds. A new car might bring initial joy, but it quickly becomes ordinary. A memory of a meaningful trip, however, can bring warmth and connection for years. The mind, it seems, is built to treasure moments more than things. Your brain fills in visual gaps you don't even notice. Right now, as you read these words, there's a small blind spot in each of your eyes where the optic nerve connects to the retina. Yet you never see a black hole in your vision. That's because your brain automatically fills in the missing information using context from the surrounding area. This filling-in process happens constantly, smoothing over interruptions from blinking, movement, and the limitations of your visual system. Your brain doesn't present reality as raw data. Instead, it offers you a carefully edited version, polished and complete, making the world seem more continuous and stable than the actual sensory input would suggest. In a very real sense, what you see is a construction, a best guess assembled by a mind that abhors gaps. People are more likely to remember unfinished tasks than completed ones. This phenomenon, known as the Zeigarnik effect, describes how our minds hold on to incomplete tasks more tenaciously than finished ones. It's why an unfinished project can nag at you for days, while completed tasks seem to evaporate from memory almost immediately. The mental tension created by an unfinished task keeps it active in your awareness, ensuring you don't forget what still needs to be done. Interestingly, even just making a plan to complete a task can reduce this mental pressure, signaling to your brain that the matter is under control. This is one reason why writing a to-do list can feel so calming. It transforms the open loops in your mind into concrete, manageable items, letting your mental grip relax just a little. Your pupils dilate when you see someone you're attracted to. Attraction triggers a cascade of subtle physiological changes, and one of the most revealing is pupil dilation. When you look at someone you find attractive, your pupils can expand significantly, a response controlled by the autonomic nervous system. This happens unconsciously and is difficult to fake. Interestingly, people also tend to find others more attractive when their pupils are dilated, creating a subtle feedback loop. Our ancestors may have evolved to read pupil size as a signal of interest and emotional state. In low light, during intimate moments, pupils naturally dilate, which may be one reason why candlelit settings feel romantic. Your eyes, it turns out, give away more than you might think. The way you speak to yourself matters as much as what others say to you. Self-talk, that inner voice narrating your life and commenting on your choices, has a profound impact on your mental health and behavior. Psychologists have found that people who practice compassionate, encouraging self-talk tend to be more resilient, while harsh, critical inner dialogue can contribute to anxiety and depression. The brain doesn't always distinguish between criticism from others and criticism from yourself. Negative self-talk can activate the same stress responses as external threats. Learning to speak to yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend can reshape your emotional landscape, turning your inner voice from a harsh judge into a supportive companion. You're more creative when you're tired. It seems counterintuitive, but mild fatigue can actually boost certain types of creativity. When you're slightly tired, your brain's ability to filter out distractions weakens, allowing more unusual connections and ideas to surface. This state is particularly good for divergent thinking, the kind of broad, associative thought that generates novel solutions. The mind, less constrained by its usual logical filters, can wander into unexpected territory. Of course, exhaustion impairs most cognitive functions, but there's a sweet spot, a gentle tiredness where the gates between the conscious and unconscious mind grow more permeable, and creativity can slip through. Physical pain and emotional pain activate similar brain regions. When you experience social rejection or emotional hurt, your brain processes it in areas that also respond to physical pain, particularly the anterior cingulate cortex. This overlap suggests that emotional pain isn't just a metaphor, it's neurologically real. Heartbreak can literally hurt. This connection likely evolved because social bonds were critical to survival, making social pain as urgent a signal as physical injury. Interestingly, this means that painkillers like acetaminophen can sometimes dull emotional pain as well. The discovery has profound implications for understanding how deeply intertwined our physical and emotional experiences truly are. Listening to music releases dopamine in your brain. Music has a unique power to move us, and neuroscience is beginning to understand why. When you listen to music you love, especially at moments of peak emotional intensity, like a soaring chorus or an unexpected key change, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. This release happens in the striatum, a region involved in anticipation and satisfaction. What's fascinating is that your brain releases dopamine both when anticipating a favorite part of a song and when that moment actually arrives. Music, in this way, activates the same reward circuits as food, sex, and other primary pleasures. but it does so through pure pattern and sound, making it one of the mind's most abstract sources of joy. Anxiety and excitement create nearly identical physical sensations. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breathing quickens. But is it anxiety or excitement? Physiologically, the two states are remarkably similar. The difference lies largely in how your mind interprets these sensations. Research shows that reframing anxiety as excitement can actually improve performance. Instead of trying to calm down before a big presentation or event, telling yourself, "I'm excited," can channel that arousal into energy and enthusiasm. This technique, called cognitive reappraisal, doesn't change your physical state, but it changes its meaning, transforming a threat response into one of eager anticipation. Sometimes the line between fear and thrill is just a matter of perspective. Your childhood experiences shape your adult attachment style. The way your caregivers responded to your needs as a child creates templates for how you relate to others throughout life. Psychologists identify several attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. If your early needs were consistently met with warmth and reliability, you likely developed a secure attachment style, feeling comfortable with intimacy and independence. Inconsistent or neglectful care can lead to anxious or avoidant patterns, affecting how you form and maintain relationships as an adult. The good news is that attachment styles aren't fixed. Through awareness, therapy, and healthy relationships, the patterns formed in childhood can be gradually reshaped, allowing for deeper, more secure connections. Cognitive dissonance makes you justify choices you've already made. When your actions conflict with your beliefs, it creates an uncomfortable mental state called cognitive dissonance. To reduce this discomfort, your mind often adjusts your beliefs to align with your actions, rather than the other way around. If you buy an expensive item, you might convince yourself it was absolutely necessary, even if it wasn't. If you stay in an unsatisfying situation, you might minimize its negative aspects. This self-justification happens largely outside awareness, helping you maintain a consistent self-image. Understanding cognitive dissonance can help you recognize when you're rationalizing rather than reasoning, allowing you to make more honest assessments of your choices. People tend to conform to group opinions, even when they know the group is wrong. In Solomon Asch's famous conformity experiments, participants would agree with obviously incorrect answers when everyone else in the group gave the same wrong response. Even when the correct answer was clear, the pressure to conform was powerful enough to override individual judgment. This tendency reflects deep social instincts. For most of human history, being part of the group meant survival, and going against consensus carried real risks. Today, this same pressure can lead people to suppress their own perceptions and beliefs to fit in. Awareness of this tendency is the first step toward resisting it, allowing you to hold to your own truth, even when voices around you say otherwise. The placebo effect works even when you know it's a placebo. Remarkably, research has shown that placebos can still produce real physiological effects, even when people are explicitly told they're taking an inactive substance. These open-label placebos have been shown to reduce pain, ease depression symptoms, and improve various conditions. The key seems to be the explanation given. If people are told that placebos can trigger the body's own healing mechanisms, and that the ritual of taking medication itself can be therapeutic, the effect still occurs. This reveals something profound about the mind-body connection. That belief in the possibility of healing, combined with expectation and ritual, can activate genuine biological changes. Your brain is more active when you're asleep than when you're watching TV. During sleep, your brain is engaged in intensive activity, consolidating memories, processing emotions, clearing out metabolic waste, and maintaining vital functions. This work requires significant neural activation. In contrast, passive television watching can put the brain into a relatively low activity state, especially compared to activities requiring active engagement. This doesn't mean TV is harmful, but it highlights that sleep is anything but inactive. Those hours of rest are when your brain does some of its most important maintenance work, filing away experiences, strengthening important neural connections, and preparing you for the next day. Rest is not idleness, it's essential labor. Gratitude practices can rewire your brain for greater happiness. Regularly practicing gratitude, whether through journaling, meditation, or simply taking time to reflect on what you're thankful for, can create measurable changes in brain structure and function. These practices strengthen neural pathways associated with positive emotion and can actually shrink the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Over time, gratitude can shift your default mental state toward noticing positive aspects of life rather than dwelling on negative ones. It's not about denying difficulties, but about training attention to register what's good alongside what's challenging. Like exercising a muscle, consistent gratitude practice can make contentment more accessible and automatic. Procrastination is often about managing emotions, not time. While procrastination appears to be a time management problem, psychologists increasingly see it as an emotion regulation issue. We delay tasks not because we lack time, but because we're avoiding negative feelings, anxiety about failure, boredom, frustration, or overwhelm. Procrastination provides temporary relief from these emotions, but at the cost of future stress. Understanding this can change how you approach delayed tasks. Instead of just scheduling better, you might need to address the underlying emotions, breaking tasks into smaller pieces, creating better work environments, or practicing self-compassion. The solution often lies not in discipline alone, but in emotional awareness. Your brain processes rejection as a form of physical pain. Social rejection activates the same neural pathways involved in processing physical pain. When someone excludes you, dismisses you, or ends a relationship, the pain you feel isn't just emotional. It registers in pain-processing regions of the brain. This overlap exists because, throughout human evolution, social connection was essential for survival. Being rejected by your group could literally mean death, so the brain treats social pain as seriously as physical injury. This is why rejection hurts so deeply, and why social support can be genuinely analgesic. Understanding this connection can help validate emotional pain. It's not weakness or oversensitivity. It's your brain responding to a signal it evolved to take very seriously. Multitasking is largely a myth. You're actually task switching. When you think you're multitasking, your brain is rapidly switching attention between tasks rather than processing them simultaneously. Each switch carries a cognitive cost, reducing efficiency and increasing errors. This constant shifting can make you feel busy and productive, while actually diminishing the quality of your work and impairing memory formation. Studies show that people who regularly multitask are actually worse at filtering irrelevant information and switching between tasks than those who focus on one thing at a time. Your brain works best when given the gift of single-pointed attention, allowing it to engage deeply rather than skimming the surface of multiple streams. The colors you see can influence your mood and behavior. Color psychology reveals that different hues can evoke distinct emotional and behavioral responses. Blue tends to promote calmness and can even lower blood pressure slightly. Red can increase arousal and urgency, which is why it's often used in clearance sales. Green is associated with nature and can have restorative effects. Yellow can boost mood, but in excessive amounts may increase anxiety. These effects aren't universal. Cultural associations and personal experiences also play a role. But there's enough consistency that designers, marketers, and artists deliberately use color to influence how people feel and act. The visual world around you is quietly shaping your inner state in ways you rarely consciously notice. Your sense of smell is closely linked to memory and emotion. Scent has a unique neural pathway, traveling directly to the limbic system, the brain's emotional center, which is why a particular fragrance can instantly transport you to a specific moment from years ago. This connection, often called the Proust effect, after the author who famously wrote about memory triggered by taste and smell, explains why scent memories are often more vivid and emotional than other types of memories. The smell of rain, your grandmother's perfume, or a particular season can unlock entire worlds of feeling and recollection. In the architecture of memory, scent is a master key, opening doors that sight and sound sometimes cannot reach. People are more honest late at night. As the day wears on and mental energy depletes, the psychological filters that govern social behavior tend to weaken. Late-night conversations often venture into more honest, vulnerable territory because exhaustion reduces inhibition and self-monitoring. The quiet, intimate atmosphere of nighttime can also encourage openness, fewer distractions, dimmer lights, and the sense that the world is at rest. This isn't universal, but many people find themselves saying things in the small hours they might never voice in daylight. The night loosens the tongue and softens the boundaries we maintain around our inner lives, allowing truth to emerge more easily from the shadows. Feeling powerful changes how you see others. Research shows that feeling powerful can reduce empathy and make you less likely to consider others' perspectives. People in positions of power, or even just temporarily made to feel powerful in experiments, tend to objectify others, pay less attention to their emotions, and see them more in terms of utility. This happens because power reduces the need to carefully monitor social cues. You're less dependent on others' approval, so you pay less attention to their states. Conversely, feeling powerless often increases sensitivity to others' emotions. Understanding this dynamic can help those in positions of authority consciously cultivate empathy and remain connected to the human experiences of those around them. Your body language affects how you feel about yourself. Just as facial expressions can influence emotions, body posture can affect your mental state. Sitting up straight can increase confidence and improve mood, while slouching can reinforce feelings of defeat or low energy. Power poses, standing with hands on hips or arms raised, have been shown in some studies to increase feelings of confidence, though the exact effects remain debated. What's clear is that the body-mind connection flows both ways. Your physical stance sends signals to your brain about how you should feel, creating a feedback loop. Sometimes, acting confident, standing tall, shoulders back, can help you begin to feel more confident. The body can lead where the mind will follow. Dopamine is released when you anticipate rewards, not just when you receive them. The neurotransmitter dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical, but it's more accurately the anticipation chemical. Your brain releases dopamine when you expect something good is coming, creating motivation to pursue rewards. This is why the excitement of anticipating a vacation can sometimes feel as good as, or even better than, the vacation itself. This system evolved to drive behavior toward beneficial outcomes, but in modern life, it can be hijacked by things like social media, gambling, or shopping, where intermittent rewards keep you chasing the next hit of anticipation. Understanding dopamine's role can help you recognize when you're being driven by anticipation rather than genuine satisfaction. Babies are born with only two innate fears: loud noises and falling. Most fears are learned through experience and observation, but newborns seem to arrive with just two built-in responses: startle at sudden loud sounds and show distress when they feel unsupported, as if falling. These primal fears likely evolved because they protected our ancestors from immediate dangers. All other fears, spiders, darkness, social rejection, are acquired through direct experience, observation, or cultural transmission. This means that much of what frightens us is learned, and what has been learned can, at least potentially, be unlearned or reframed through new experiences and understanding. Crying can be a healthy emotional release. Tears aren't just a sign of sadness or weakness. They serve important psychological and physiological functions. Emotional tears contain stress hormones and other chemicals, and crying may help flush these from your system. Many people report feeling calmer and lighter after a good cry. Suppressing tears can actually increase stress over time. Crying can also signal to others that you need support, serving as a social bonding mechanism. In a culture that often views crying as shameful, especially for men, it's worth remembering that tears are a natural, healthy part of emotional regulation, a way the body and mind process overwhelming feelings. The peak-end rule shapes how you remember experiences. When remembering an experience, people tend to judge it based on two key moments: the most intense point, the peak, and the ending, rather than the average of the entire experience. A vacation might have been mostly ordinary, but an amazing sunset and a wonderful final dinner will make you remember the whole trip fondly. Conversely, a painful medical procedure with a particularly bad moment and an uncomfortable ending will be remembered as worse than one with the same average pain, but a better ending. This quirk of memory has practical implications. It suggests that how things end matters enormously for how they're remembered and valued. Your brain can only handle about 150 stable social relationships. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed that there's a cognitive limit to the number of people with whom you can maintain stable social relationships, about 150. This number, often called Dunbar's number, seems to reflect limits in the brain's capacity to track social complexity: who knows whom, who owes whom favors, and the intricate web of relationships. You might have more casual acquaintances, but the number of people you can truly know and maintain meaningful connections with is constrained. This helps explain why larger groups often subdivide, and why social media, friends, don't necessarily translate to deeper connection. The mind has room for only so many people in its inner circle. Nostalgia can actually make you feel physically warmer. Nostalgic memories don't just warm the heart, they can literally make you feel warmer. Studies have shown that people who engage in nostalgic reflection report higher perceived room temperature and show increased resistance to cold. This happens because nostalgia often involves recalling times of social connection and comfort, and the brain's representations of social warmth and physical warmth are intertwined. When you reminisce about happy memories with loved ones, your body responds as if you've stepped into a cozier environment. It's a beautiful example of how mental states can influence physical sensations, wrapping you in an invisible blanket woven from memory. People are hardwired to spot faces everywhere. Humans are so attuned to recognizing faces that we see them in clouds, on pieces of toast, in the arrangement of electrical outlets on a wall. This phenomenon, called pareidolia, happens because the brain has dedicated neural machinery for face detection that's extremely sensitive, sometimes too sensitive. It's better, from an evolutionary perspective, to occasionally see a face that isn't there than to miss one that is. Recognizing faces quickly could mean identifying friend or foe, so the brain errs on the side of caution, finding faces in patterns and shadows. It's a reminder of how our perception is shaped not by objective reality, but by survival priorities encoded in our neural architecture. Writing by hand improves learning and memory. When you write by hand rather than type, you engage different cognitive processes that lead to better retention and understanding. Handwriting is slower, which forces you to be more selective and to process information more deeply as you write. It also involves fine motor skills and spatial processing that typing doesn't engage. Students who take handwritten notes often perform better on conceptual questions than those who type, even if they write less. The physical act of forming letters seems to create stronger neural pathways. In an increasingly digital world, picking up a pen and paper can be a simple but powerful tool for learning. Your brain reconstructs visual scenes during eye movements. Every few seconds, your eyes make rapid movements called saccades, jumping from one fixation point to another. During these movements, your vision is essentially suppressed. You're briefly blind. Yet you never notice this because your brain fills in the gaps, creating a seamless visual experience. Similarly, when you blink, your brain edits out the interruption. The world you see is not a continuous stream of images, but a carefully constructed narrative stitched together by a brain that abhors discontinuity. Your visual experience is, in a sense, constantly being rebuilt, a real-time reconstruction project happening outside your awareness. Loneliness can impair immune function. Chronic loneliness doesn't just feel bad, it can make you physically vulnerable. Research shows that lonely individuals have weaker immune responses, higher levels of inflammation, and are more susceptible to illness. This happens because loneliness triggers stress responses that, over time, wear down the body's defenses. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Being separated from the group was extremely dangerous, so the body responds to isolation as an ongoing threat. The finding underscores that social connection isn't a luxury, it's a biological need, as fundamental to health as nutrition or sleep. Your emotional state can change your perception of physical pain. The experience of pain isn't purely physical, it's deeply influenced by psychological factors. Anxiety can amplify pain, while positive emotions can reduce it. This is why distraction techniques work for children getting shots, and why chronic pain often worsens with depression. The brain's pain processing centers interact closely with areas involved in emotion and attention, meaning your mental state literally shapes how much something hurts. Understanding this connection has led to treatments that address both physical and psychological aspects of pain, recognizing that healing sometimes requires attending to the mind as much as the body. People conform more when uncertain. When faced with ambiguous situations, people look to others for cues about how to think and behave. This tendency increases in proportion to uncertainty. If you're not sure whether something is dangerous, funny, or appropriate, you'll likely follow the crowd's lead. This can be helpful, social learning is efficient, but it can also lead to problematic groupthink or the perpetuation of incorrect information. Understanding this tendency can make you more aware of when you're relying on others' judgments rather than your own assessment, allowing you to pause and evaluate situations more independently. Your brain continues developing until your mid-20s. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive functions like planning, impulse control, and weighing consequences, is one of the last brain regions to fully mature, not reaching full development until around age 25. This helps explain why adolescents and young adults often take more risks and have difficulty with long-term planning compared to older adults. The teenage brain is undergoing massive reorganization, strengthening some connections and pruning others. This period of development is crucial, but also vulnerable. Understanding this can foster more compassion for young people, navigating a world with brains that are still very much under construction. Hearing your name activates unique brain regions. Your name is like a neural alarm clock. Even in a noisy environment, hearing your name can cut through the chatter and capture your attention, a phenomenon known as the cocktail party effect. Brain imaging shows that hearing your own name triggers activity in the medial prefrontal cortex and other areas associated with self-referential processing. This special sensitivity likely evolved because knowing when someone was addressing you could convey important information about danger, opportunity, or social interaction. Your name is woven into your sense of identity, and your brain treats it as uniquely significant, immediately pulling your attention from wherever it had wandered. Decisions are easier when you have fewer options. While having choices feels liberating, too many options can lead to decision paralysis and decreased satisfaction. This is known as the paradox of choice. When faced with too many alternatives, people often feel overwhelmed, take longer to decide, and are less happy with their final choice because they're more aware of missed opportunities. Reducing options can actually increase contentment. This doesn't mean choice is bad, but rather that there's a sweet spot where you have meaningful options without being overwhelmed. Sometimes constraints can be freeing, allowing you to focus on what matters rather than getting lost in infinite possibilities. Your gut feelings are influenced by your gut bacteria. The gut-brain axis describes the bidirectional communication between your digestive system and your brain. The trillions of bacteria in your gut, collectively called the microbiome, produce neurotransmitters and other chemical signals that can influence mood, anxiety, and even decision-making. Changes in gut bacteria composition have been linked to depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. This means that what you eat doesn't just affect your body, it can influence your emotional state and cognitive function. The phrase, gut feeling, may be more literal than we realized, as the digestive system communicates with the brain in ways that shape intuition and emotion. Visualization can improve actual physical performance. Athletes have long used mental imagery to enhance performance, and research confirms its effectiveness. When you vividly imagine performing an action, your brain activates many of the same neural pathways used in actually performing it. This mental rehearsal can strengthen motor programs, improve technique, and build confidence. Studies show that mental practice combined with physical practice is more effective than physical practice alone. The brain doesn't completely distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones, which means you can train your mind and body even when you're sitting still, preparing neural pathways for action. The brain's pain centers can activate without physical injury. The anterior cingulate cortex and other pain-processing regions can activate in response to social rejection, witnessing others in pain, or even imagining painful scenarios. This explains why watching someone get hurt can make you wince, and why remembering an embarrassing moment can create a physical sensation of discomfort. The brain's pain system is more complex than a simple alarm for tissue damage It also responds to psychological and social threats. This overlap means that emotional and physical pain aren't separate experiences, but different facets of a unified system designed to protect you from harm. Being in nature can restore mental energy. Spending time in natural environments has restorative effects on attention and mental fatigue. This phenomenon, called attention restoration theory, suggests that nature engages your attention in a gentle, effortless way, allowing the mental resources used for focused attention to replenish. Even looking at pictures of nature or having a view of greenery from a window can have measurable benefits for mood, stress, and cognitive performance. In contrast, urban environments demand constant directed attention, navigating traffic, filtering noise, which can be depleting. Nature offers a respite, a place where the mind can wander and restore itself. Your personality can change throughout your life. While personality traits show some stability, they're far from fixed. Research shows that people tend to become more agreeable, conscientious, and emotionally stable as they age, a pattern called the maturity principle. Life experiences, relationships, therapy, and intentional effort can all influence personality change. You're not locked into the person you were at 20 or 30. The brain's plasticity means that new patterns of thinking and behaving can become ingrained over time. This offers hope that personal growth is always possible, that you can cultivate the traits you value and gradually become more fully who you want to be. Touch can reduce stress hormones. Physical touch, whether a hug, a hand on the shoulder, or holding hands, can lower cortisol levels and reduce physiological markers of stress. Touch activates pressure receptors in the skin that send signals to the vagus nerve, which helps regulate stress responses. It also promotes the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, which fosters feelings of trust and connection. In studies of couples, holding hands during a stressful situation reduced the stress response and even synchronized brain activity between partners. In a world increasingly mediated by screens, the simple human act of touch remains a powerful tool for comfort and connection. You're more likely to remember something if you learn it before sleep. Sleep plays a crucial role in memory consolidation, the process of transferring information from short-term to long-term storage. When you learn something right before sleeping, that information gets prioritized during the night's memory processing. Studies show that people who study before bed and then sleep tend to remember more than those who learn the same material in the morning and stay awake. This happens because sleep, particularly deep and REM sleep, helps stabilize memories and integrate them with existing knowledge. If you need to remember something important, reviewing it before you close your eyes can give it a better chance of sticking. Anxiety can make time feel slower. When you're anxious, minutes can feel like hours. This time, dilation occurs because anxiety heightens attention and arousal, causing your brain to process more information per unit of time. When you later remember the anxious period, all that extra detail makes it seem like it lasted longer. The same effect happens with novel or threatening experiences. Your brain records more details when it perceives potential danger, making those moments expand in memory. Conversely, when you're relaxed and in familiar surroundings, time can seem to fly by because your brain is processing less. Understanding this can help you recognize that the dragging feeling during anxious moments isn't an accurate measure of time passing, just your mind working overtime. People tend to mimic those they like. Without realizing it, you often mirror the body language, speech patterns, and even facial expressions of people you feel connected to. This unconscious imitation, called the chameleon effect, is a form of social bonding. When two people are in rapport, they naturally synchronize their movements, leaning in at similar angles, crossing their legs in similar ways, or adopting similar speaking rhythms. This mirroring happens more with people you like or want to connect with. Interestingly, when someone deliberately mirrors your behavior, you tend to like them more, creating a feedback loop of connection. It's one of the subtle ways humans build bridges between minds without ever speaking about it. Your brain creates patterns even in randomness. The human mind is a pattern-seeking machine, constantly looking for order, meaning, and predictability in the world. This tendency is so strong that you'll see patterns even where none exist, whether it's finding shapes in clouds, seeing faces in random objects, or believing that a random sequence of coin flips should alternate more than it actually does. This pattern-seeking served our ancestors well, helping them predict weather, track animals, and navigate their world. But it can also lead to superstitions, conspiracy theories, and seeing connections where there are only coincidences. The mind would rather impose meaning on randomness than accept that sometimes things simply happen without reason. Your expectations can shape your reality. The Pygmalion effect describes how your expectations of others can actually influence their behavior and performance. When teachers were told certain students were bloomers who would show significant improvement, those students did indeed improve, even though they were randomly selected. The teachers' expectations changed their behavior subtly. They gave more attention, encouragement, and feedback, and the students responded by performing better. This effect works on yourself too. Your beliefs about your own abilities can become self-fulfilling prophecies. Expect to fail, and you might not try as hard. Expect to succeed, and you're more likely to persist through challenges. In many ways, reality bends slightly toward what you expect to find. Laughter is contagious because of mirror neurons. When you see someone laugh, specialized brain cells called mirror neurons activate the same neural pathways involved in your own laughter. This is why laughter spreads through groups, and why laugh tracks on TV shows can make content seem funnier. These mirror neurons help you understand others' actions and emotions by simulating them in your own brain. They're part of what allows empathy and social learning. The contagious nature of laughter likely evolved to strengthen social bonds. Shared laughter creates group cohesion and signals safety and playfulness. In a very literal sense, when you witness joy, your brain gets a taste of it. Stress can enhance certain types of memory. While chronic stress impairs memory, acute stress can actually improve it, particularly for emotionally significant events. When something stressful happens, your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which enhance memory consolidation for that event. This is why you often remember traumatic or highly stressful moments with exceptional clarity. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Remembering dangerous situations helps you avoid them in the future. However, this enhanced memory comes at a cost. Stress can also make you more likely to form false memories about peripheral details while focusing intently on the central threat. The mere exposure effect makes you like things more with repetition. Simply being exposed to something repeatedly tends to make you like it more, even if you weren't particularly interested initially. This mere exposure effect works with faces, songs, images, even nonsense words. The more familiar something becomes, the more positively you tend to feel about it, up to a point. This is partly why songs grow on you with repeated listening, and why advertising works through repetition. Your brain interprets familiarity as safety, and safety feels good. However, the effect diminishes if the initial reaction is very negative, or if exposure becomes excessive. There's a sweet spot where familiarity breeds comfort rather than contempt. Your brain perceives time differently when you're in danger. In life-threatening situations, people often report that time seemed to slow down dramatically. During a car accident or a fall, seconds can feel like minutes as the brain shifts into overdrive. This isn't actually time slowing, but your memory working differently. In moments of extreme stress, the amygdala, your brain's threat detector, signals that this moment is important and needs to be recorded in detail. Your brain lays down denser memories, capturing more information per second. When you recall the event later, all those extra details make it feel like more time passed. It's a survival mechanism, ensuring that dangerous moments are remembered vividly to help you avoid similar situations in the future. Kindness releases oxytocin in both giver and receiver. Acts of kindness don't just benefit the recipient, they create a neurochemical reward for the giver as well. When you help someone, your brain releases oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone, which promotes feelings of warmth, trust, and connection. This same chemical is released in the person receiving kindness, creating a shared biological experience. Even witnessing acts of kindness can trigger oxytocin release in observers, creating a ripple effect. This helps explain the helper's high people often describe after volunteering or helping others. Kindness is literally self-reinforcing. Your brain rewards you for it, making you more likely to be kind again. It's a beautiful biological system that encourages cooperation and compassion. Your working memory is like a mental scratch pad. Working memory is the small amount of information you can hold in mind and actively manipulate at any given moment, like mental scratch paper. When you do mental math, follow directions, or hold a phone number in your head, just long enough to dial it, you're using working memory. It's limited in capacity. Most people can hold about 4-7 chunks of information at once, and it's fragile, easily disrupted by distraction or new information. Strengthening working memory through practice can improve everything from academic performance to everyday problem solving. It's the cognitive workspace where thinking happens, and keeping it clear and organized makes all mental tasks easier. Eye contact triggers arousal in the nervous system. Making eye contact with another person activates your autonomic nervous system, creating a subtle state of arousal. This can manifest as anything from attraction to discomfort, depending on context. Prolonged eye contact can feel intimate or threatening, while avoiding eye contact completely can signal discomfort or deception. The right amount of eye contact, culturally variable, signals confidence and engagement. Interestingly, mutual gaze can actually synchronize brain activity between two people, creating a sense of connection. Eyes truly are windows to the nervous system, and the simple act of meeting someone's gaze creates a moment of neurological connection. Your emotions can spread to others like a virus. Emotional contagion describes how moods and feelings can transfer from person to person, often without awareness. If you spend time with someone who's anxious, you might start feeling anxious yourself. One person's happiness can lift the mood of an entire group. This happens through multiple channels: facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and even chemical signals like pheromones. Mirror neurons play a role, as your brain simulates the emotional states you observe in others. This contagion can be powerful. Studies show that having a happy friend increases your own happiness, even if that friend lives far away. You're more emotionally porous than you might think, constantly absorbing and transmitting feelings in your social environment. Recalling a memory can make it stronger or change it. Every time you remember something, you don't just access a stored file. You reconstruct the memory from pieces scattered across your brain. This reconstruction process, called reconsolidation, makes the memory temporarily malleable. Details can shift, new information can blend in, and the memory can be strengthened or weakened. This is why repeatedly recalling something makes it easier to remember later. The act of retrieval strengthens the memory trace. But it also means memories can be subtly altered with each recollection, incorporating current emotions or context. Your memories are living things, constantly being rewritten each time you remember, blending past and present in ways you rarely notice. Scarcity makes things seem more valuable. When something is scarce or perceived as rare, you tend to value it more highly, even if its objective worth hasn't changed. This scarcity principle drives everything from limited edition products to the appeal of exclusive clubs. The psychology behind it is simple. Rare things are harder to obtain, so obtaining them signals status and triggers the reward centers of your brain. Scarcity also creates a sense of urgency, fear of missing out, which can override rational evaluation. Marketers exploit this constantly, but understanding the principle can help you recognize when you're being influenced by artificial scarcity rather than genuine value. Sometimes the rarest thing is stepping back and asking whether you actually need or want something, or just desire it because it's scarce. Your brain uses 20 watts of power, about the same as a dim light bulb. Despite being only about 2% of your body weight, your brain consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy, running on approximately 20 watts of power. What's remarkable is how much computational power your brain achieves with such minimal energy. The most advanced supercomputers require millions of watts to attempt what your brain does effortlessly, recognizing faces, processing language, coordinating movement, experiencing emotion. This efficiency comes from billions of neurons working in massively parallel networks, each connection contributing to the whole. As you rest tonight, your brain continues this quiet work, burning energy like a small flame, maintaining the vast interior world of your consciousness. Daydreaming uses a specific brain network. When your mind wanders and you drift into daydreams, a specific set of brain regions becomes active, called the default mode network. This network activates when you're not focused on the external world, during rest, introspection, or imagination. Far from being idle, this network is involved in important functions: consolidating memories, planning for the future, understanding yourself and others, and creative thinking. People who daydream more tend to be better at problem-solving and creative tasks. Rather than being a waste of time, daydreaming is your brain's way of processing experiences, exploring possibilities, and maintaining a coherent sense of self. Sometimes the mind needs to wander to find what it's looking for. You make micro-expressions you can't control. Micro-expressions are fleeting facial expressions lasting less than half a second that reveal genuine emotions, often contradicting the expression you're consciously displaying. Even when you try to hide how you feel, these brief flashes of true emotion leak through. Trained observers can detect them, which is why they're sometimes used in security and interrogation settings. Micro-expressions happen because emotions trigger automatic facial responses that occur before conscious control can suppress them. This means your face often tells the truth, even when your words don't, broadcasting feelings you might prefer to keep hidden in tiny, involuntary moments of honesty. Boredom serves an important psychological function. While boredom feels unpleasant, It serves as a signal that your current activity isn't meaningful, engaging, or aligned with your goals. This discomfort motivates you to seek out more rewarding activities or to create meaning in your current situation. Boredom can actually spark creativity. When your mind isn't engaged by external stimuli, it turns inward and begins to wander, making unexpected connections. Studies show that people who experience boredom often generate more creative ideas afterward. In a world of constant stimulation, the ability to tolerate boredom and the creative insights it can bring becomes increasingly valuable. Sometimes the mind needs empty space to fill itself with something new. Your brain can hold about 2.5 petabytes of information. If your brain worked like a digital video recorder, it could hold approximately 2.5 petabytes of information, equivalent to about 3 million hours of video. This staggering capacity comes from the approximately 86 billion neurons in your brain, each forming thousands of connections with other neurons. However, your brain doesn't store information like a computer. Memories aren't discrete files, but patterns of neural activation that overlap and interconnect in complex ways. This means capacity isn't really the limiting factor for memory. It's more about how information is encoded, organized, and retrieved. Your brain contains multitudes, vast libraries of experience, knowledge, and possibility, most of it quietly waiting beneath the surface of conscious awareness. Music can help retrieve lost memories in dementia patients. Even when Alzheimer's disease has eroded many cognitive abilities, musical memories often remain remarkably intact. Music from a person's youth can unlock memories, emotions, and even verbal abilities that seemed lost. This happens because musical memories are stored across multiple brain regions, including areas relatively spared by Alzheimer's. The emotional power of music and its connection to the limbic system may also help bypass damaged neural pathways. For caregivers and families, music offers a bridge to connect with loved ones, even as other forms of communication fade. The songs we carry through life become lifelines, melodies that persist when so much else has slipped away. Your pupils dilate when you're mentally working hard. Cognitive effort causes measurable changes in pupil size. When you're concentrating intensely or solving a difficult problem, your pupils dilate, expanding to let in more light. This pupil dilation correlates with mental workload. The harder the task, the more your pupils expand. Researchers can actually gauge how difficult someone finds a task just by measuring pupil size. This happens because the same neural systems that control arousal and attention also influence pupil dilation. It's a window into mental effort, a physical manifestation of cognitive strain. Even your eyes reveal when your mind is working hard, widening to meet the challenge before you. Social isolation can be more harmful than obesity. Loneliness and social isolation have been linked to increased mortality risk, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and more harmful than obesity or physical inactivity. Chronic isolation triggers stress responses that lead to inflammation, weakened immune function, higher blood pressure, and increased risk of heart disease, stroke, and cognitive decline. Humans are fundamentally social creatures, and lack of connection isn't just emotionally painful, it's physically dangerous. The quality of relationships matters more than quantity. A few deep connections provide more health benefits than many superficial ones. In an increasingly isolated world, cultivating genuine connection isn't just nice, it's a matter of health and survival. Your brain has a negativity bias. The human brain is wired to pay more attention to negative information than positive. Bad news, threats, and criticism register more deeply and linger longer in memory than good news or praise. This negativity bias evolved because ancestral humans, who were alert to dangers survived better than those who were oblivious. Noticing the one potential predator was more important than enjoying 9 beautiful sunsets. Today, this bias can make you dwell on one critical comment while ignoring dozens of compliments. Understanding this tendency can help you consciously balance your attention, deliberately savoring positive experiences and putting negative ones in perspective. The brain's default may be negative, but awareness gives you the power to adjust the balance. Expressing gratitude can improve your relationships. Regularly expressing appreciation and gratitude to others doesn't just make them feel good. It strengthens your relationship bonds. When you express gratitude, the recipient feels valued and is more likely to invest in the relationship. You also benefit. Focusing on what you appreciate about someone shifts your own perception toward the positive aspects of the relationship. Gratitude expressions create upward spirals of positivity. One person's gratitude encourages the other's kindness, which inspires more gratitude. This simple practice, saying thank you, acknowledging effort, expressing appreciation, can transform relationships over time, building reservoirs of goodwill that carry couples, friends, and families through difficult periods. You're more creative in the shower because you're relaxed. Many people report having their best ideas in the shower, and there's psychology behind it. Showering is a relaxing, mildly stimulating activity that occupies just enough of your attention to quiet your inner critic while leaving your mind free to wander. The release of dopamine from the warm, pleasant experience also supports creative thinking. You're alone, free from distractions, in a routine activity that requires little conscious thought. This creates ideal conditions for the default mode network to activate, allowing disparate ideas to connect in new ways. Creativity often emerges not through forced concentration, but through relaxed, open awareness, the state a warm shower naturally provides. Your brain can rewire itself after injury. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, means that even after significant injury, recovery is possible. When one area of the brain is damaged, other areas can sometimes take over its functions. A stroke patient might regain speech by training different brain regions to handle language. This rewiring requires intense practice and rehabilitation, but the brain's capacity to adapt is remarkable. Neuroplasticity isn't limited to injury recovery. It's happening constantly as you learn, form memories, and develop new skills. Every experience physically reshapes your brain, sculpting new pathways and strengthening connections. You are, in a very literal sense, constantly being remade by your experiences. Complaining rewires your brain for negativity. When you complain, your brain releases stress hormones and creates neural pathways that make it easier to be negative in the future. Repeated complaining literally rewires your brain toward pessimism, making you more likely to notice and focus on negative aspects of situations. This doesn't mean you should suppress legitimate grievances, but chronic complaining without problem solving becomes a destructive habit. The brain is like a muscle. It strengthens the pathways you use most. If you practice negativity, you get better at being negative. Fortunately, the reverse is also true. Practicing gratitude, reframing, and constructive problem solving can rewire your brain toward resilience and positivity. Your brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text. Visual information is processed incredibly quickly by the brain. You can understand the meaning of a scene in as little as 13 milliseconds, far faster than reading text describing the same scene. This is why visual learning is often so effective, and why images are so powerful in communication and memory. About half of your brain is devoted to processing visual information in some way. This visual dominance explains why photographs, diagrams, and videos can convey complex information more efficiently than words alone. Your brain is built to see and understand the world, primarily through vision, transforming light patterns into meaning at speeds that conscious awareness can barely follow. Sleep deprivation impairs judgment about your own sleep deprivation. One of the most dangerous aspects of sleep loss is that it impairs your ability to recognize how impaired you are. After several nights of insufficient sleep, you might feel somewhat tired, but believe you're functioning reasonably well. However, objective tests show significant deficits in reaction time, attention, memory, and decision-making. This metacognitive failure, not knowing that you don't know, makes sleep-deprived people overconfident in their abilities, which is particularly dangerous when driving or making important decisions. The only cure is actual sleep, rest, and the recovery of both performance and the awareness of how much you needed that recovery. Your heartbeat can influence your perception of fear. Your brain constantly monitors signals from your body, including your heartbeat, and uses this information to interpret situations. When you notice your heart pounding, your brain might interpret this as fear, even if the racing heart was caused by exercise or caffeine. This interoception, awareness of internal body states, shapes emotion. In anxiety disorders, people often become hyper-aware of their heartbeat, interpreting normal variations as signs of danger, which creates more anxiety in a vicious cycle. Understanding that physical sensations don't always mean what you think they mean can help break this cycle. Sometimes your heart races just because it's doing its job, not because there's something to fear. You can train your brain to need less sleep, but not without consequences. Some people claim to thrive on just a few hours of sleep, and while your body can adapt somewhat to sleep restriction, there are always costs. Even if you stop feeling sleepy, the cognitive impairments remain. Studies show that people who regularly sleep less than 7 hours have increased risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and shortened lifespan. There's a rare genetic mutation that allows some individuals to function well on less sleep, but it's extremely uncommon. For the vast majority, the adaptation to sleep deprivation is an illusion. You feel less terrible, but you're still impaired. The brain needs sleep for repair, memory consolidation, and clearing metabolic waste, processes that can't be shortchanged without consequence. Bilingualism can delay the onset of dementia symptoms. Speaking 2 or more languages throughout life appears to provide cognitive reserve that can delay dementia symptoms by several years. The constant mental juggling of multiple languages strengthens executive function and attentional control. This doesn't prevent the underlying disease, but it helps the brain compensate longer, maintaining function despite increasing pathology. The benefit seems strongest for those who use both languages regularly throughout life, but even later life language learning provides cognitive benefits. The brain is like a muscle, challenging it with complex tasks, like managing multiple languages keeps it flexible and resilient, building reserves that can buffer against decline. Your brain makes up your mind 10 seconds before you realize it. In neuroscientist Benjamin Libet's experiments, brain activity indicating a decision could be detected up to 10 seconds before participants reported being consciously aware of making that decision. This finding has sparked intense debate about free will and the nature of consciousness. It suggests that unconscious brain processes initiate decisions, and consciousness arrives later to take credit. However, you still retain the ability to veto decisions, to consciously override impulses. Whether this represents true free will or just another layer of unconscious processing, remains one of psychology's deep questions. What's clear is that consciousness is not the sole author of your choices, but part of a larger system operating largely outside awareness. Suppressing thoughts makes them more intrusive. The ironic process theory, sometimes called the white bear problem, shows that trying not to think about something often makes it more prominent in your mind. When you suppress a thought, one part of your brain tries to avoid it, while another monitors to make sure you're successfully avoiding it. This monitoring process keeps bringing the thought back to awareness. This is why telling someone not to think about pink elephants almost guarantees they will. It's also why trying to suppress worries or unwanted thoughts often backfires in anxiety and OCD. More effective strategies involve acknowledging thoughts without fighting them, allowing them to pass like clouds rather than trying to wall them out. Your mood affects what you notice in your environment. When you're happy, you tend to notice more positive things around you: smiling faces, beautiful scenery, opportunities. When you're sad or anxious, you're more likely to notice threats, problems, and negative aspects. This mood-congruent perception creates a feedback loop. Your mood shapes what you notice, which reinforces your mood. This helps explain why depression can feel so totalizing. When you're depressed, the world genuinely looks darker because your attentional filters are tuned to notice negative information. Understanding this can help you recognize that your perception is not objective reality, but a mood-filtered version. Sometimes changing what you notice requires first addressing the mood, doing the filtering. Power posing might change your hormone levels. Research on power poses, standing in expansive, confident postures, suggests these poses might influence hormone levels and feelings of confidence, though the effect is debated. The original research found that holding powerful poses for 2 minutes increased testosterone and decreased cortisol. While subsequent studies have questioned these specific findings, there's still evidence that posture affects psychological state. Standing tall versus slouching does influence how confident and powerful you feel. The body-mind connection flows both ways, and consciously adopting confident body language, even when you don't feel confident, can nudge your internal state in that direction. Sometimes you have to pose as the person you want to become. Your brain has a built-in GPS system. The discovery of place cells and grid cells in the hippocampus revealed that your brain has specialized neurons that create an internal map of your environment. These cells fire in specific patterns as you navigate space, creating a neural representation of where you are and where you've been. This internal GPS allows you to navigate familiar environments almost automatically and to imagine routes before taking them. Damage to these systems can result in profound spatial disorientation. This same system is also involved in memory, which may explain why spatial cues are such powerful memory triggers and why the memory palace technique works. Your brain navigates space and time using related neural machinery. Forgiving others benefits your own health. Holding grudges and ruminating on past hurts keeps your stress response system activated, leading to increased blood pressure, heart rate, and stress hormone levels. Forgiveness, which doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but rather releasing the emotional burden, can reduce these physical stress markers. People who practice forgiveness report better mental health, lower anxiety and depression, and even better physical health outcomes. Forgiveness is less about the other person and more about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of resentment. It's not weakness, but a form of emotional self-care, letting go of toxic emotions that harm you more than anyone else. Your brain can generate entirely new neurons. For decades, Neuroscientists believed that adults couldn't generate new neurons, but research has shown that neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, continues throughout life in certain brain regions, particularly the hippocampus. Exercise, learning, and enriched environments promote neurogenesis, while chronic stress and lack of sleep suppress it. These new neurons may play important roles in learning, memory, and mood regulation. This discovery has profound implications. Your brain isn't a fixed structure that only degrades with age. You can actively support the growth of new neurons through lifestyle choices, exercise, mental stimulation, adequate sleep, and stress management. The brain is not just plastic, but generative, creating new building blocks throughout your life. Crying has different types with different purposes. Humans produce 3 types of tears: basal tears that constantly lubricate your eyes, reflex tears that respond to irritants like onions or smoke, and emotional tears triggered by feelings. Emotional tears have a unique chemical composition, containing stress hormones and other substances that aren't present in other tears. Crying may help flush these chemicals from your system, providing physiological relief. It also serves social functions, signaling distress and eliciting support from others. Suppressing tears can actually increase stress over time, while allowing yourself to cry can be cathartic. Tears are not weakness but a sophisticated emotional regulation system with both personal and social benefits. You have implicit biases you're not aware of. Everyone holds unconscious biases, automatic associations and preferences formed through cultural conditioning and personal experience. These implicit biases can influence behavior even when they contradict your explicit, conscious values. Someone might sincerely value equality while still showing measurable bias in split-second reactions or decisions. These biases form because your brain constantly categorizes information to process the world efficiently. But these mental shortcuts can lead to unfair judgments. The first step in addressing implicit bias is becoming aware it exists in everyone, including you. Awareness doesn't eliminate bias, but it allows you to slow down, question automatic reactions, and make more deliberate, values-aligned choices. Meditation can change your brain structure. Long-term meditation practice has been shown to create measurable changes in brain structure. Regular meditators show increased gray matter density in areas associated with attention, emotion regulation, and self-awareness. The amygdala, involved in stress and fear responses, often shows reduced volume in experienced meditators. These changes correlate with reported improvements in well-being, focus, and emotional balance. Even relatively brief meditation practice, 8 weeks in some studies, can produce detectable changes. Meditation is not just a mental state, but a form of brain training that can physically reshape neural architecture, strengthening circuits for attention and calm, while quieting those associated with reactivity and stress. Your brain synchronizes with people you're talking to. When 2 people engage in conversation, their brain waves begin to synchronize, a phenomenon called neural coupling or brain-to-brain synchrony. The more engaged and connected the conversation, the greater the synchronization. This coupling allows successful communication, as the listener's brain begins to mirror patterns in the speaker's brain. This synchronization extends beyond just language areas to include attention, emotion, and even motor regions. It's a biological manifestation of being on the same wavelength. This neural dance between minds is part of what makes human connection so powerful, and why truly good conversation can feel almost magical. Your brains are literally resonating together. You can improve your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions in yourself and others isn't fixed. Like other skills, it can be developed through practice and reflection. Key components include self-awareness, recognizing your own emotional states, self-regulation, managing those emotions effectively, empathy, understanding others' feelings, and social skills, navigating relationships successfully. Practices like mindfulness, reflective journaling, seeking feedback, and consciously practicing empathy can all strengthen emotional intelligence. As you develop these skills, relationships improve, stress becomes more manageable, and you navigate social situations more effectively. Emotional intelligence may matter more for life success than IQ, and the good news is it's trainable. Your childhood attachment style affects your adult relationships. The patterns of attachment you formed with early caregivers create templates for how you relate to romantic partners as an adult. Secure attachment, formed when caregivers were consistently responsive, leads to comfort with intimacy and healthy relationship dynamics. Anxious attachment can develop from inconsistent caregiving, leading to fear of abandonment and need for constant reassurance. Avoidant attachment may result from emotional unavailability, creating discomfort with closeness. These patterns persist because they feel familiar and shape what you expect from relationships. However, attachment styles can change through awareness, therapy, and corrective relationship experiences. Understanding your attachment pattern is the first step toward developing more secure, satisfying relationships. Your brain predicts the future constantly. Your brain is a prediction machine, constantly generating expectations about what will happen next based on past experience. These predictions shape perception, attention, and behavior. When predictions are confirmed, the world makes sense. When they're violated, you experience surprise, and your brain updates its models. This predictive processing is why you can catch a ball, finish someone's sentence, or feel uneasy when something is off. Your brain is always running simulations of the near future, preparing responses before events fully unfold. Most of this happens unconsciously, but it fundamentally shapes your experience. You're never experiencing the present directly, but rather your brain's best prediction of what the present should be. Hope is psychologically protective. Hope, the belief that the future can be better and that you have some agency in making it so, is a powerful psychological resource. People with higher levels of hope show better mental and physical health, greater resilience in the face of challenges, and better outcomes in therapy. Hope isn't the same as optimism. It includes both the expectation of positive outcomes and the belief in pathways to achieve them. This combination of motivation and agency makes hope actionable rather than passive. Fostering hope involves setting meaningful goals, believing in your ability to work toward them, and identifying multiple pathways to success. Even in dark times, maintaining hope can be the thread that pulls you toward light. Your sense of self is a construction. What you experience as you, the unified, continuous sense of being a single person, is actually constructed by your brain from many separate processes. Different brain regions handle perception, memory, emotion, and decision-making, and your consciousness weaves these into a coherent narrative. This construction can be disrupted by brain injury, meditation, or certain experiences, revealing its built nature. The self isn't a fixed entity, but an ongoing process, a story your brain tells to make sense of various inputs and experiences. This doesn't mean the self is an illusion, but rather that it's more fluid and constructed than it feels. Understanding this can create flexibility in how you see yourself. opening possibilities for growth and change. You are always capable of change. Perhaps the most hopeful finding from psychology is that change is always possible. Your brain's neuroplasticity means new learning and growth can occur throughout life. Old habits can be broken and new ones formed. Painful experiences can be processed and integrated. Relationships can be repaired. Mental health can improve. The person you are today is not the person you must be tomorrow. Change isn't always easy. It requires awareness, intention, and often sustained effort. But the capacity for change is built into your biology. Every moment offers the possibility of choosing differently, thinking differently, being differently. In the quiet space between thoughts, in the gentle hours of rest, your brain is already preparing for tomorrow, ready to reshape itself in whatever direction you guide it. Closing. And so, our journey through the landscape of the human mind comes to a gentle close. We've wandered through memory and perception, through emotion and connection, through the hidden processes that shape every moment of your existence. Each fact we've explored is a small window into the vast, mysterious, beautiful architecture of consciousness. Perhaps some of these insights will stay with you, or perhaps they'll dissolve into the soft fog of sleep. That's perfectly fine. The mind has its own way of holding what it needs and releasing what it doesn't. What matters most is that you've taken this time for yourself, to rest, to wonder, to let your thoughts drift wherever they wish to go. In a world that constantly demands your attention, this quiet hour is a gift you've given yourself. Your brain, even now, continues its quiet work, consolidating memories, clearing away the day's debris, preparing you for whatever tomorrow brings. Trust in its wisdom. Trust in the restorative power of rest. If you're still awake, you can continue to the next video. But if your eyes have grown heavy and your thoughts have begun to blur at the edges, simply let yourself drift. Let sleep wrap around you like a warm blanket. Let the facts and insights settle gently into the deeper layers of your mind, where they'll be waiting if you need them. Thank you for spending this time here, exploring the mysteries of the mind with me. If you enjoyed this journey, consider subscribing for more peaceful explorations of the world's wonders. And feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Sleep well, rest deeply, and may your dreams be kind. Good night.